Alright, good morning everybody. We got a whole bunch of work to do today with this baby, and I figured I'd videotape it to show you how she works. So let's get started. Let me get it loaded. And after putting that much weight in the back, the first thing you got to do, put up the tow mirrors. And now we're ready to roll. In all seriousness, I love this truck. I really do. Now that it's got over 6,000 miles on it, it's absolutely brilliant. I'm really glad I got the 410 gears, because it doesn't even have to downshift anymore towing the travel trailer. Once it gets into 6, she just goes. But I hate the mirrors. Absolutely cannot stand the mirrors. They're not bad when they're up, but with that small concave lens on the bottom or on the outside when they're down, it just gives you a funny look, and you always have to adjust the things, and I've never been able to find a spot where I like them. And then when I have to tow something, which I do fairly often with this, I have to diddle with them again. It's just a pain. So that's what this is. This is going to be my attempt to put something that I think works better on in place of those mirrors. The fun part, assuming we can ever get it open. Oh wow, that's not what I expected. Okay. Wiring. All right, we even got a wiring diagram. Here's what we got. This is a fairly late model GMC towing mirror. It never has to change orientation. It's got turn signals front and rear. It's got this thing, which I guess on the GMC is a little light that comes on with the reverse, but I'm going to try to hook it up to where the puddle light is on mine, because otherwise, you know, it's got heat just like mine does, got the turn signal just like mine does. You know, this is motorized, this isn't, but it doesn't have to rotate. So if I can figure out how to get her mounted and hooked up wiring, should be in pretty good shape. So that's the next project. All right, so the first part of this process, you gotta get this cover off, at least on my Tradesman. And it just pops right off. It's got a couple little clips on it, not much to it. Now you can see your bolts. You can also see your wire, which disappears down into the door. So that's going to take a little bit. Looks like we got some Torx screws around the edge. I'm sure there's a hidden one under here. And that looks to be about it. There may even be one up under here if I have to pop that up. But we shall see. So that's what's coming off next. Alright, these are T20s. First thing I notice is They're not screws. They're those little push clips that used to have a Phillips head screw in them, but now I guess they've gone to Torx for some reason. So you don't really need a wrench, you just need the bit to loosen that up. Alright, so that's all of those. Need a little bit better pry bar to get that off. Ooh, is that flimsy? That is just a little tiny hinged plastic flap. So there's a big Phillips under there. Alright, after that comes off, then this can come out. And that's all she wrote. Very simple. Sneaky buggers. There's a two-stage lock on the mirror and window switches. You gotta pull up the red clip, and then it comes off, and you're done. You can see the little red clip. It has to be slid back. Alright, so here's our mirror wire, here's our mirror plugs. So now, what I want to try to figure out is what all these wires do, and if I can easily match them with the wires on the Chevy Mirror. That's going to take a little bit of time and probably won't be even half as interesting as this wasn't. Alright, so before I finish up with the wiring, which I have just unhooked here, a little factory tie wrap here and some tape here, pop the mirror off the rest of the way. Do just 10 millimeters. There's 3 of them. One of them is outside of the cover plate on this truck. Possibly on some of the higher end models it wouldn't be, but you can see it's moving already. There she goes. Not much to it. And there it is. Now we can try to see what we can do to match these wires up. Okay, so here we have the mirror set, and a couple of the differences. Well, first we got my puddle light, which I want to hook up to here. Got my turn signal, which I'm going to try to hook to this turn signal, and what they call the clearance light, but what I'm going to turn into another turn signal. And the heater and the heater. So it's got the heaters. But one of the things that it does have on the Dodge Mirror that it doesn't on the Chevy is this thing. And this is an ambient air temperature sensor. So that is going to need to get mounted somewhere on this mirror. I haven't quite figured out where I'm going to do that yet, but we will get there. Because this is especially important for the diesels, I believe. Obviously it'll give you your ambient air temperature on the dash, but related to the diesels, there's a possibility that, well, I don't know. It may have something to do with the cold start when it actually goes into heat up mode, when it uses the grid heater. So I'm not sure. I don't want to know. So I don't want to have it throwing error codes, so that thing is going to make it over to here. Wiring wise, I've got a couple of ideas. First, I could just use all the Chevy wires and figure out where they go, cut them, splice them, and use the Dodge plugs. Second, but that would actually force me to actually have to add wires for this. The other thing I'm thinking is a patch harness where I just make plugs from this to Dodge plugs and have a little separate harness, but that's going to be a lot of work, and I don't really know where to source all of these connectors. And the third option is if I can disassemble these a bit and get to the back sides, I may be able to use the entire Dodge harness and just run the wires where they need to go in here. That's probably a little more work up front, but I think it will be simpler in execution at the end. So, haven't quite decided what I'm going to do, but we're going to see. We're going to start tweaking at it, and we're going to see where we go. So I've started disassembling the Chevy Mirror because it's heavy, and there's going to be a fair bit of modification needing to be done to this aluminum because these stick out a fair bit further than they do on the Dodge. But it looks like these three might be pretty damn close. This one doesn't need to work, so either I'm going to have to drill another mounting hole in the Dodge or just pull that one out. Now, the way this comes apart is you got these covers, the one with the hole in it goes on the bottom, and they just pop off on each side, and then you can really ease them out. And same thing on the top, it just pops off, and then you can ease it back out. They've got little clips on the edge right here, and then a few up here. These 4 screws are actually on a piece that goes inside here. I don't know that those had to come out, but I didn't know that they didn't, so they're out. They'll go back in shortly. So now what I'm going to do, these look like 9 or 10 millimeters, so these are going to come out here. I'm going to disconnect this completely, and that's going to give me hopefully a little more room to figure out how to get the rest of this plastic off so I can see the wiring. And then also when it comes time to mounting it, this is going to be a lot lighter to mount by itself without this big honker hanging off of it, because this is actually, you can see the rust, this is actually steel tubing. So that's our next step. Alright, so here's something interesting. The hole through which the wires pass is not big enough for either that grommet or the plugs. Weirdly, the ram plugs actually will pass through the hole in the Chevy bracket. So that's a positive thing for that line of thought of using that harness if it's possible. So the only way I can get that off of there, and honestly I'm not going to be using these anyway because I don't think I'm going to make a patch harness for it, is I'm going to have to cut these plugs off. But I want to double check, make sure I got my wire diagram for these, which I think I do already, and then we're going to take that apart. So we've got the air temperature sensor off. That was just a little plug over here. The wire snuck under that. And the puddle light, which is actually just 2 little clips. That's kind of interesting. It looks like the rest of that should pop off fairly easy, and I think the wiring will go up through the middle here. I checked to see if there was any way to possibly reuse this
and mount the Chevy mirror on that. But because of the way this is fabricated, it's all swedged together as one piece, and this is not able to be disassembled like it is on the other one. So that's not going to work. But I knew that was a long shot, but I figured I'd give it a look. So we're going to continue, probably trying to get the back side of the Chevy housing apart, or the front side, or depending on what I can do, to see how the wires are going to look. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with how that just came apart. Both of the mirror sections, this one down here and the one here, just pop off. And this one has a couple of little connections, one for the heater, which I'm assuming that's these two that were just the spade connectors, and one for the turn signal, which is that little LED bar. Those are not bad. I mean, that's pretty well done. And then we got our motor down here, which isn't going to have to get, doesn't have to go anywhere. And a few other wires. Not bad. This could work. This could work. So I'm going to continue disassembling this to see if this face can come off, because I've got 4 Phillips screws there. And if that'll come off, that might expose everything that I need to be able to start figuring out where my other wires might be able to go. Yeah, and there we go. So there's my clearance light. And this is my rear-facing turn signal in the mirror. This is my mirror heat. And this is the reverse light. So that's very interesting. That was very cool. Now, what I need to do, and I can get to all of that right now real easily. So I'm pretty excited about that. And this should, if I have to do anything with it, that should pull out. But what I may be able to do, now looking at it, is, since I'm going to have to change some of the wiring, since the wiring on the Dodge mirror, the puddle light is right here at the hinge, and it's this one here where it's going to be is all the way out here. I'm going to have to extend that wiring anyway. So I may just keep a combination of these harnesses and figure out where the wires just need to connect up to make everything work. So that's what we're going to start playing with now, is getting that, seeing what we can get out of the Dodge harness to make all of that work. And another thing I think I can pull off is this little temperature sensor. If I liberate it from its attachment, I think I can easily put that in this mirror housing out here somewhere. So that shouldn't be any issue whatsoever. Alright, so far pretty similar stuff. Pop the mirrors off. Got my mirror heat. This is the little blinker turn signal there. Got the motor with its wires. But I do see something else that I don't know what exactly it is. This little box has some wires going to it. So I'm going to have to pull that out and figure out what the hell that does and if it has to stay. Because with the CAN bus and all the other stuff that this thing uses to communicate with the truck, I'm not sure exactly what that is, but we will find out. Alright, well I got this thing out, and there's no significant information on it, but it's got 2 little wires going to it. They're like green and red for one of them and brown for the other one, and they go to this white plug, which also has the puddle lamp on it, the blue, yellow, and black from here. I can't find out what this is. It's not the temperature sensor, that's that other little thing. But I just had an epiphany. I think I know what this is. This is an orientation sensor. In other words, This is how it's installed in the unit. When it's sitting this way, it knows that the mirror is horizontal, so that it changes your mirror buttons so that they work correctly, left, right, up, down. When it tips this way, if it didn't know that, your left would now be down and your up would be left. Everything would be off by 90 degrees. So this thing is some sort of an orientation switch. So when you flip the mirror from horizontal to vertical, that tells the computer, okay, I need to change the controls from the switches to the motor harness. That's what this thing is. So I don't know if I'm going to have to put that into the Chevy Mirror. I don't know if the thing defaults one way or the other. That's something I may test right now. But that is an interesting thing. I wondered how they did that, and it finally occurred to me that this is exactly what they used. There's only 2 wires going to it, so it's probably no continuity, or something stupid like that. And it just sends a signal back to the computer that tells it to switch your switches on the door for the mirror controls. That's what that is. So, okay. That may not be necessary to go back into the Chevy Mirror. If anything, if it won't fit back in there, I'll unwrap this whole harness, pull the wires back, and I'll just mount it horizontally in the door so the things operate normally all the time, and then I won't have to worry about it. But that is what that is. So there you go. If that ever stops working, that's the piece that you need. But there's no number on it, so good luck. Phew, it's getting warm today, but little progress. So we have the mirror motor hooked up, along with the turn signal in the mirror and behind it. So what we got, oh hell, I didn't know it did that. That's pretty cool. Now what I don't have hooked up, but I could if I wanted to, is this is for the marker lights. But I don't think I'm going to, because it doesn't need a marker light out there, but it's something I'm just going to leave if I wanted to turn that front-facing one into a marker. The only issue I have is no matter what I did with the wiring, up and down I can get right, but right and left are backwards. No matter what I did with the wiring. Jump ring that little switch, position indicator switch or not, it just didn't work. It was either going to be 100% upside down or just left and right backwards. So I'm going to finish this up, and then once I get the other side done, if they're both 100%, left and right backwards like that, I may go into here and see if I can switch the polarity on this switch. Just switch the wires on the back of this switch. But we got no codes. So far so good. What I need to do now is run the wire for this, extend it up through the harness so it can power the puddle light, which is the reverse light on this one, and then figure out where I'm going to mount this and probably extend those wires as well. But so far so good. So puddle light works. Mirror works, although left, right are backwards. And the turn signal works. Still got my temperature sensor, which I think I'm just going to tuck into the molding here once I get it mounted. And she is wired up. Oh, here's something. Let's close the door and see if the puddle light goes out. Yep, beautiful. Now when I open the door, nice. Perfect. the wiring is complete. Now the fun part. Alright, here's where it's going to get difficult. The only ones I've seen online so far were done on a 3rd gen. So I guess prior to 2000 and... I don't know. Well, whenever. The last body style to this one. So this, I think, can be made to work reasonably well. Especially if I tweak it like this. A little bit of a gap underneath the bottom, but if I shave this here, that can probably work. That's not bad. But in order to put that there, this piece has to go about here. And there's going to be a whole bunch of grinding on this thing. Basically, I'm going to have to take that entire raised face off. And see what we're going to end up with. Because this is very shallow. As you can see, it's a very shallow point where they have the mirror bolted. And they actually support the mirror with a doubler back here, which is interesting. But yeah, to put that where that needs to be, it's going to be interesting. Let's see if I can put them together. Yep. Yeah, well, it may not be too bad. But you can see that's going to be a lot of grinding. And this piece here, the way that's set up and the way this cover is set up like that, it's going to be interesting on this truck. I'm going to do it. We're going to get it right, and I'm going to try to make it look as good as possible because these mirrors are an abortion. But it's going to get interesting. So we're going to start doing some cutting. And fail. Well, I gave up. Anything is certainly possible with enough time and money and effort. But after grinding off everything on this Chevy bracket, including cutting out the top and the bottom, flushing everything, drilling 2 new holes in the door, one here and there's another one hidden under here, it just wasn't going to work. Again, I probably, if I had infinite patience, which I certainly don't, I probably could have made it work. But one of the things that's different about the Dodge is this steel reinforcement bracket on this 4th gen. I don't know if the 3rd gens have it, but 4th gens certainly do. And this is what keeps this thing stable. There was no way that I was going to make this work because this, I mean, the only way I was going to make that work is I was going to have to weld up or Belzona this whole area right in here and then re-drill it, because this hole ended up way up high and it just wasn't going to work. I'm sad, or not sad, I'm disappointed, because I really liked those lights and the mirrors. I think that if I could have figured it out, it would have been fantastic. But no, so we just got everything's working. Puddle lights back, turn signals are back, you know, no issues with the wiring. My temperature gauge works, so I haven't screwed anything up. but I definitely learned that you don't want to try to put a set of 2015 and up mirrors from a Chevy onto a 4th gen Dodge. The wiring is fabulous because of the LEDs. It's literally plug and play. Just tie whatever you want into whatever and everything works. It's beautiful. So I'll grant the LEDs that much. But you're gonna have to be a hell of a lot smarter than I am to come up with a mount that's gonna work on this truck, which is too bad because these are good mirrors. Yeah, I like that mirror, and that was just trash, but oh well, we'll write it off. Anyway, that's my unfortunate end, and yeah, I guess the rain lets me know how well I did today. But oh well. If I can figure out another possible setup that would allow me to mount that mirror, I will definitely look into it in the future, because I hate these things. I do not like them, not one bit. But till next time, talk to you later.